Fabulous. That is a fantastic question, Samantha, because I've forgotten to teach you. So when a patient offers a really vibrant new word spontaneously, that's the unconscious therapeutic alliance letting you know that, and particularly, not only is it servant, a vibrant word, it's a metaphor. So when you get a vibrant, powerful metaphor spontaneously coming from the patient, that's a sign of UTA. So you want to use that metaphor in your next intervention because it's a way the unconscious that sent you a message. So you want to use that word to speak to the patient's unconscious and mobilize him. And now you have the perfect word to interpret his conflict. Right. But then we see if you hide what you really want, then you would become a better servant here to me. And then we would have the same submissive servant relationship you have with your father and mother, right? So would it make sense for us to help you face this anger so you wouldn't have to hide it under a servant position? Would it make sense for us to help you face this anger so you could own your power rather than hide it under a servant facade? Yeah. So shall we take a look underneath the servant facade and see who you really are underneath it? So we keep mentioning that because now that's our metaphor. Right. We're not going to talk abstractly. Well, do you notice how you engage in this sadomasochistic relationship that involves submission to a dominating figure? Right. Now he's given us a metaphor that's going to speak to the unconscious. So anytime the patient offers a new metaphor, that's a UTA signal, and use it in your next intervention. And that's how we form the unconscious therapeutic alliance. You see, the patient has an unconscious wish to get well. The unconscious therapeutic alliance isn't in the patient, it's between us. We build it. So we get a message from the unconscious, we use that word to talk to the unconscious, and that's how we start to form an alliance with the patient's unconscious, because we're picking up those unconscious cues and talking to the unconscious. And then the unconscious says, wow, she just picked up my cue. Okay, I'm going to send her some more.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Let's see. Did the patient himself mention the word slave? He actually mentioned the word servant. So, but I think that once you mention the word servant, yes, then you could build on that and try slave. You could try it. It may work, it may not. But again, when you do it, it's a hypothesis you test. So, right. So Deef is saying, so the metaphor is like a doorway to the unconscious. Absolutely. See, the reason metaphors work is that they're a visual image. So instead of just verbal, they're a visual image, and that's right brain. So that's a cue. Let's see. So maybe the nonverbal brain naturally thinks in metaphors and symbols. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So yes, we do think in language and words, but we also think imagistically, right? This is very important. Metaphors, words. Remember, we have all kinds of modes, right? There's music, there's imagery through painting, there's movement through dance. There's many, many unconscious modes of symbolizing experience. And so the nonverbal, when we get these metaphors or symbols, then yes, it's very, very important to use those. Other questions, comments?
I want to thank Sadir and John. It was a great learning. And while you were working with Sadir, I thought about the meeting I had earlier today. And my patient was not willing to work on internal problem, and I found myself criticizing him. And I think with myself, you give me an inspiration to think what happened to me. Yeah. And I think I went something that connected to me not allowed to be wrong or fail, and I get angry about the figures in my life that didn't let me to make mistakes, and my anger went to him.
Exactly. Let me try this out. So if this patient chooses to fail, do you have any control over that?
No.
So I'm willing to bet that sometimes people criticize you for not having control over something that you had no control over.
Yes.
Right. So they gave you a message that you should always have control over events that you don't have control over. Now that's a big setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as you know, as a child, you don't know any better. Oh, I should have had control over something I didn't have control over. It must be my fault. Right. Instead of as an adult, we kind of say, wait a second, if this guy decides to fail, I don't actually have any control over his decision. And since he's probably failed with other therapists, he's proven that he can fail if he wants to. Right. And there's a certain kind of relief in realizing, holy cow, that's my past that's active here, that I should somehow have control over other people. When in life has that ever happened? Right? Every one of us have tried to control other people, and we've always failed. And you think your parents tried to have control over you, and they failed too, right? We are all testaments. Every one of us is a testament to our parents' failure to control us. And gradually, as therapists, we're kind of like ahead of the curve thinking, actually, no, they couldn't control me. And so maybe I could take the hint and realize I can't control my patient either. And it's not my fault. If he wants to sabotage himself, he can. He's been doing a bang up job for probably 30 years. So maybe I could sit back for a moment and have a little reunion with reality. And so the patient said, no, I don't want to. What exactly did he say when he didn't want to look at an internal issue?
That the problem is the boss, the other guy, not his, it's not all inside with him.
I see. Well, then it's not, if the problem really is your boss, then I guess all you can do is just wait for your boss to change. Now, how long have you been waiting for that?
Yes. I have to be very careful not to be cynical towards him.
It's not cynical. This is realistic. If what you say is true, that your boss is the problem, then the only thing you could do is wait for your boss to change. That's just right. If what he says is true, then the only thing you can do is wait for his boss to change. And it sounds like he's been waiting for his boss to change. Right? And you get, and I would just say, insofar as you're waiting for your boss to change, yeah, how has that been working for you? So when you wait for your boss to change, is it possible that you're making yourself the hostage of his neurosis?
Okay.
Because from what you said, it's possible you might have to hope the Buddhists are right, and you might have to wait 10,000 lifetimes before your boss changes. But then we'd have to wonder, why are you making yourself the hostage of your boss? Why wait for him to change when you could change first?
It sounds empathic. It's good.
Right. So again, just making clear, right? Sure, you can blame other people. I don't know. Maybe his boss is really terrible. I don't know. But if his boss is terrible, then yeah, according to him, to his logic, the only thing you can do is wait for his boss to change. And then we get to ask, so insofar as you're waiting for him to change, how is that working? It's a reasonable hypothesis. How is it working? And then to add, right, because then we can talk about his masochism implicitly. So, right, so then insofar as you're waiting for your boss to change, is it possible you're making yourself the hostage of his neurosis? So in a way, yeah, why wait for him to change when you could change first? How is that changing your understanding of that situation you are in?
Yeah, it helps me how to be more empathic to the patient.
Yep, to really meet him exactly where he is.
Yes.
And if he says, well, I can see you think I should change, I'd say, well, keep in mind, this isn't my boss. This isn't my job. So I actually don't need anything to change. Right?
Yes, thank you.
I mean, I could wait for that boss to change the rest of my life, but it's not going to affect me because he's not my problem. That's why I have to ask you, yeah, is your solution working for you? Because in the end, only you can make that decision. See, and again, you're just reminding him of reality. So in that way, it's really, this illustrates a statement I keep coming back to. At that moment, you were under a delusion. You thought, oh my God, this is a really big problem for me. And I'm sort of reminding you, actually, this is actually not a problem for you. It's his problem. But at that moment when it was a problem for you, it was more of a problem for you than it was for him. And so in a way, I'm always having to kind of remind all of you, actually, it's not your problem. You actually don't need anything to change. Because once it's not a problem for you at all, and the patient begins to realize it, then they realize, oh my God, it's not a problem for me, arm. This is my problem. And then the problem is happening in the right person. And we, all of us get hooked. Oh my God, this is a big problem. But if the problem is more of a problem for you than for the patient, therapy's stuck. That's why we're always having to shift to help you get to a position where it's actually not a problem at all for you. So the right person starts to feel their problem, because that's where the motivation will be. And as Deef is saying, it's reminding me of reality, but also differentiation, right? That this isn't your problem. These aren't, it's not your boss, it's not your job. You're reminding the patient of differentiation. And so in a way, it's his problem, and only he can know if his current solution is working for him. Remember, his defenses are his current solution. And we just ask, how is that working? It's a reasonable hypothesis. All right, well, thank you all. And thank you, Sudhir, for such a great case, really illuminating about seeing the importance of the role of will in a case like this, where a patient really goes to a passive position, has a history of tyrannical relationship, and where we're careful to go really focus on will, at least right here, based on the history of the psychotic break in the past. And then we'll find out in later sessions, as Sudhir works on will, we're going to learn what levels of capacity this patient has, and we'll get a more refined understanding of the patient over the next couple of sessions. So thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next meeting.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.